Wake up, sleeper.
Hello and welcome to the So Many Games podcast and this discussion on Citizen Sleeper 2. My name is Jason and joining me is one of my fellow writers, Tofr.
Hello.
Hello. And but if you're watching this and you're wondering what is So Many Games, then let me inform you. We are a group of passionate indie game players that want to do our part in helping them to become more easily discovered. We do that through our written reviews on the website and the occasional video on YouTube. What we are doing today is another way to do that, though the game in question today doesn't really need much help in discoverability. This might turn into a monthly thing, so keep your eyes peeled for another episode in the near future. Now, we were both very lucky to receive code for Citizen Sleeper 2, and I want to thank Fellow Traveller for supplying us with the code. We were over the moon to see it sit in our inbox, literally, I was giddy. And the funny thing was that it went to my junk folder.
No.
And so I've got into a habit of checking my junk folder every now and again, just because of these things happened in the past. So I just casually went to my junk folder, and then there was just like subject line Citizen Sleeper 2 review code. I was like, oh my god. So,
nice.
Yeah, so I want to thank Fellow Trevor for that. It was really, really, really cool of you. And also just want to make you all aware that Tofr's review of Citizen Sleeper 2 is available right now at somebodygames.co.uk. And thanks very much for doing that review. I'm sure it was a lot of fun, Tofr.
It really was. I usually my reviews are about the same length. I went almost double that this time.
Wow.
Because I had so much to write about.
We're looking at 2,000 plus review then, I think.
Something about like that, yeah.
It's funny, because I had that when I did Caravan Sandwich last year. I just had so much to say about it. And I didn't really realise how much I'd said. And then I checked the word count and it was like 2,100 and something. And I was like, geez, no wonder my thumbs hurt. But yeah, that should be available right now. I should put links in the video description so you can go and check that out after you've watched this. But here we are going to be having a much deeper discussion on the game, which will include many spoilers for the story and the game in general. So if you don't want anything spoiled, which I very much suggest you don't, then this will be the time to leave us, unfortunately. But please come back once you finish the game and listen to what we've got to say.
Yeah, the written review is also spoiler-free, by the way.
Very important. That I'm glad you did keep it spoiler-free, because I think some of the stuff in the game really doesn't need to be spoiled for people.
Exactly.
I was really grateful that I got the opportunity to not have anything spoiled for me going into the game. So yeah, definitely make sure you don't either. This discussion will be broken down into a few sections. Our general thoughts on the game, its new additions to the gameplay and how we felt about them, the story itself, its music and visuals, and ending the podcast with overall thoughts on the game if we've got anything else left to say about it. But before we get into Citizen Sleeper 2, I'd like to spend a little time discussing our experiences with the original game. And what was that like for you, Tofr?
It was an interesting one because I have some experience playing tabletop RPGs. So immediately I was drawn to this, and especially since I have a really big passion for intimate science fiction, like not the kind of big battles, shooting lasers, that kind of stuff, but rather the human side of science fiction. So I was immediately drawn to the first game, and it was available on Game Pass. So I downloaded it there, started playing, and didn't stop playing until I was finished with the entire game. How about you? Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't manage it in one sitting, but Citizen Sleeper for me was a funny one because I'd started hearing rumors about, this should be a game that should be experienced. I'd heard a few people say to me, or just on the internet, like, oh, this is worth your time. You really need to check it out. But every time I looked at the screenshots, I was like, doesn't really look like my kind of game. It looked very wordy. and I'm not overly sure about the visuals. It didn't look like there was a lot going on. So I kind of sat on it. I didn't really jump into it straight away or anything.
Hmm.
And it's funny because Citizen Sleeper was one of the first games that I reviewed. Like when I first started reviewing indie games for
Hmm.
my other podcast, the Wolfie Pod, and I remember hearing all the good stuff about it, and I saw it was sitting there. Oh, request a code, and I thought, oh, I'll request it and just see what happens. And they
Hmm.
accepted. They sent me the code, and I thought, well, I've got to play it now. And yeah, I fired it up very apprehensively, but 5 minutes, maybe even not that, I was in. I was hooked.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know what it was. Well, we do know what it was about, Citizen Sleeper. It was about. It wasn't. I mean, it was a little bit about the visuals. It was about
Hmm.
everything else, and like it just drew me into this world. I was
Hmm.
like, "Whoa, what is going on here?" I was not expecting to just be sucked in like this. You know.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, I get that. The For me, the writing has always been the biggest draw to this game. I mean, I do like the visuals. I think, especially the hand drawn, cartoony visuals by Guillaume Saint-Gelin, they're really nice. But it's the writing that makes it makes you feel like you're there. It
Yeah.
makes it feel like this is a place that has been lived in. It has history. Its people, the people you meet, have history. And I don't know how, but Gareth Damian Martin, the developer, they have this way with words. They're both eloquent, but also they drag you into the story. And I'm, yeah, really big fan of that.
Yeah. That was what I wasn't expecting. Like, I started feeling for these characters that I was just reading words about. I mean, I know
Hmm.
it's just a bit like reading a book, I suppose, in some ways, but
Hmm.
it felt more than that. And I don't think that was down to it being a video game. I think it was still down to two main elements, and that was the writing and the music.
Oh, yes.
I think those two things, for me, was what really put me into the world of Citizen Sleeper and what was going on.
Hmm.
And I'm a big science fiction person as well. I like a lot of science fiction stuff. Star Trek, Matrix. All that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah, it all just kind of just blew me away, and like just how deep it all was, how much, like you say, how much history, like how much thought had gone into creating this world,
Hmm.
and that just kind of just blew me away. It was just, yeah, it was just, I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm getting all this from this game. That, that doesn't really have a lot going on, but it
Hmm.
does, and yeah, you've got the dice mechanic, you've got that you've got that side of the game, um, which gives you the more deeper tabletop kind of area of the game. But
Hmm.
I still think the writing and music still overpowered that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's the game. The dice element means that you have just enough interaction with the game so that it's not just a book that you're reading, which makes that the decisions that influence the people around you and your own character that much more meaningful. That's what I felt, at least. I got drawn into, like, the relationships between the people, but having made decisions myself that influenced them
Mm,
brought me closer to them.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. I never really thought of it in that sense before, but yeah, you're right. And did you like do one ending? Because obviously the original game's got multiple endings.
Hmm.
Did you do one ending and then go back and then go the other way so you could experience all the other endings?
I I completed the game a couple of times just to get a couple of the different endings. I haven't finished. I didn't get all of them, but I did want to see, like, there were people that you were leaving behind in some endings, and I wanted to see what happened to them. Um, and it was really interesting to find that each ending works just as well as the others. They're all how should I say this? all of them have been written just as well. You're just as invested in one ending as you are in the other. It's not like any of the endings were an afterthought or anything.
No, exactly. Because that's what I was like. I said, I need. There's lots of games I play that have got multiple endings, but I'm
Hmm.
normally happy just walking away with whatever ending I've got.
Yeah,
But this one, I needed to see or experience all the other different endings.
yeah, I get
That's
that.
why when I experienced one ending, I just went back to my save file, and instead of choosing the option I chose the opposite version to push me to the next one, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just so I could experience those endings, because I was just lapping up anything that this game was throwing at me, and that was the same afterwards. I was so blown away by everything. I just needed as much Citizen Sleeper stuff as I could possibly grab. And
Hmm.
this was why I was glad about the book, the Citizen Sleeper book that Lost in Cult did. I was like, yeah, getting that.
Hmm.
The actual physical single player game
Hmm.
that they're making. Yep, I've got to get that. And I would have got more. I've got the physical copy of Citizen Sleeper on the Switch. I had to grab that.
Hmm.
But there was a few other things I wanted, but the prices were just getting getting a bit silly. So I had to leave those ones behind, unfortunately. But yeah, so hearing of Citizen Sleeper 2, I was like, hell yes. Thank,
Hmm.
thank you that you're making another one. And Gareth has come onto record recently and said that this will be the last game in the
Yeah,
Citizen Sleeper world,
yeah.
which is sad, but I'm
Hmm.
hoping that it kind of lives on in other areas, in other media.
Apparently, in an interview I read with them, they mentioned that they're working on a full tabletop RPG in the Citizen Sleeper world because they feel like they've told the stories that they wanted to tell in this universe, and they now want to give other people the opportunity to tell their stories within that world, which is an incredible idea.
Yeah, I'm up for it. Like I say,
Same.
anything to do with Citizen Sleeper, I'm up for it. I'd read books. If they ever want to make books in that
Hmm.
world and about their characters in there,
Hmm.
yeah, I'll read them. So yeah, that's how much I fell in love with Citizen Sleeper, and
Hmm.
it's crazy that I had that impression of it walking into the game, and then I had that impression of it walking out of the game. That just speaks to the power of Citizen Sleeper, I think.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I mean, we're here to talk mostly about Citizen Sleeper 2. The game's
Yeah.
just come out when you're watching this, and um, yeah, like I said, I was stoked to see the launch trailer or the reveal trailer for Citizen Sleeper 2.
Hmm.
Especially the way that it was done as well. It was all kind of like storyboarded, like animated kind of thing, which
Yeah.
was really cool to see from within Citizen Sleeper. So
Hmm.
that was really cool. But in Citizen Sleeper 2, it takes us back to the Helion system and to the belt, where we join up with a different sleeper to the original game.
Hmm.
And we embark on a journey across many different parts of the belt, trying to evade the evil Lane who is chasing them across the system. And this game's only got one ending, whereas we mentioned about Citizen Sleeper only had multiple endings. Well, I believe
Hmm.
it only has one ending. I think it has one ending, doesn't it?
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so. There's plenty you can do before the ending, before
Yeah.
you choose to make like that final step. But I think there's only one ending to
Yeah.
really.
Which I kind of appreciated, I think. I quite liked that it just had the one ending this time.
Mhm.
Um, Pretty cool. But, like, when I first fired up Citizen Sleeper 2, I don't know, I think it overwhelmed me a little bit. I think I was
Mhm.
so eager to get into the game, so eager to experience what was here,
Mhm.
that I don't know, I think I might have rushed it or not paid attention properly to it because I was so over fixated with it. Um,
Mhm.
and there's a part, the first part of the game is on this one particular um, area.
Mhm.
I can't remember what it's called now. The heat is a
Hexport. Hexport.
hexport. That's it. Yeah. And as you do whatever you do in the hexport, and then you have to leave, and then you have to
Mhm.
leave and go to the next area. And I completely screwed it up. I don't really know what I was doing, and I went to the next one, and I'd already had a permanent glitch dice of me
Oh
in
no.
the second area, and it was a struggle. I thought maybe I can, get past this and everything. But as you progress through the game and like dice break and other ones glitch and everything, I was struggling. Like, at some
Hmm.
cases, right at the beginning of the game, I had like one or two dice that I could use, and
Hmm.
especially if you got a rubbish roll and you had like a one and a two, I wasn't getting anywhere. And then
Hmm.
obviously I'm getting ahead of myself. I guess we'll get back. But like, part of the early part of the game is like Lane is chasing you, so you've only got a certain amount of cycles before you have to go to somewhere else. Otherwise, Lane's going to get you, and you know it's all going to go pear shaped.
Hmm.
But like I said, I was struggling to like do what I needed to do in these areas, and then move to the next one before Lane got there. And
Hmm.
in the end, I just thought, you know what, I've got a couple of hours into this game, but I'm just going to delete this and just start all over again.
Hmm.
And um, it was a much better experience. I think having those 2 hours, I was like, I kind of put my head in the game a little bit more to
Hmm.
what I needed to be doing and concentrating on, and it was a much more enjoyable experience. So, there's a little warning for you guys in there: don't just go jump in and headstrong and rush it and everything. Pay attention, concentrate on what you need to do, and
Hmm.
yeah, just take your time. Otherwise, things will go wrong, and you won't enjoy the experience. And this is definitely something you need to be experiencing.
Yeah.
I'm assuming your first experience as a Zebra 2 was not as hectic.
It wasn't, but that's mostly because you warned me about it.
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
even
did.
I even mentioned it in the written review, that it might be interesting if it's too much, like too much information, too many new mechanics to learn. It might be interesting to just play an hour or two and then start over,
Yeah,
knowing what you know, because knowing what you know 2 hours in allows you to make different choices at the beginning of the game that will influence your gameplay in such a good way. Um, but yeah, I paid as much attention as possible and tried to take it slow, even though I wanted to like really dive in. Um, I had played the Next Fest demo, which was most of the part that's on Hexport as well. And I tried to make different decisions than I did when I played the demo, just to see how things would change. Um, but immediately I was invested. We were meeting people. We were meeting people who had their own backstories. You meet this brother and sister, uh, who have a, let's say, complicated relationship.
mm, yeah, just a little bit.
um, but yeah, since you're on the run, when you reach Hexport and your spaceship, the rig, isn't uh, able to fly that much further, you have to complete some contracts, which is the first real new addition to gameplay, from that wasn't in the first game. Um, and I really liked this. It immediately gave the game this sense of scale that the first game didn't have, because you're going out there, like, you're not staying on one spaceship anymore. You're going out there, you're moving all over the place. And think I was it made me think, like, um, sequels usually choose to go bigger and better and stuff like that. And Citizen Sleeper 2 obviously did the same thing. They went bigger. You have an entire part of a star system to explore now, but it still feels intimate because you still get to know people. I could talk for hours about just the people you meet and how that influences gameplay, how meeting them and getting to really know them influences the choices you'll make later on in the game. It might be interesting to mention that when you go on contracts, you get to select a crew to go with you. The pool that you get to select from becomes bigger the more people you meet, obviously. But it's interesting because when you're on a contract, your crew will be able to take actions as well. They have their own set of dice that you can use. So it's really important to take the right characters with you so that you can get the job done as quickly as possible. Because when you're out there, you're using fuel, you're using rations. Um, these are all factors that add to the stress and add to
Yeah,
the immediacy of the game. Did you like the contracts?
I did. I thought they were a good addition
Hmm.
to the game. Um, like you said, it gave the game a little bit of more tension that I
Hmm.
think Sits and Sleeper was missing a little bit.
Yeah.
Not to say there were moments in the original game where it had those stress elements, but the contract seemed to just heighten that, because
Hmm.
there were moments I was doing contracts and I'm like, I really need to get this done. Because I've only got one supply left or two supplies, and I'm going to start starving. And my dice are going to start breaking.
Hmm.
And like, yeah, it was stressful in a good way, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought they were a good addition. The one thing I wasn't quite keen on was like where you mentioned about the choosing which crew to take with you on the
Hmm.
contract. I did struggle a little bit knowing who to take
Yeah.
because each person's got their own abilities.
Hmm.
In each character screen at the top, they've got a little symbols which tell
Hmm.
you what they're good at. But I couldn't see anywhere to tell me what I needed to take to be good at that
No.
particular contract.
No, exactly. Because one thing that might have annoyed me slightly in the game was that sometimes you one of the crew members was locked in because it was a mission that pertained to their story, and then usually their skill was the most useless one that you had with you.
Yeah, exactly. I had that problem numerous amounts of times, like where
Hmm.
their dice just was not working for me,
No.
because if you have someone on your crew and their dice are not the greatest, if you've got a six in their character, if the character's got a six on their dice, then two gets taken away. So then it's only a four instead of a six.
Hmm.
So that did make it slightly frustrating because I wasn't sure who to take.
Yeah.
So, it was just slightly frustrating in a way. If I kind of
Hmm.
knew what abilities I needed for that particular contract, then I could have chosen a little bit more wisely.
Hmm. Absolutely. In the end, I mostly chose the people that I trusted the most. Well, that my sleeper trusted the most, but that's just the people that you meet the earliest. So,
Yeah,
like,
I always took Bliss.
yeah, yeah, same.
Yeah. But he
But
he
that's
seemed like the most like overall kind of like he's kind of like an engineer. He can fix things, and he's got like he seems to have a bit of moral. He seems to be a good character,
Mhm,
good sense. I got a good sense from him. I thought like if I've got him on the team, then he's normally going to be
mhm,
handy to have, which kind of
yeah.
turned out mostly the time that turned out to be true.
Mhm. Well, I also usually took Bliss along, but also because that's one of the few characters that you meet from the first game, which I I don't know why, but it kept me tethered to like the grander Citizen Sleeper universe, and I was like, hell yeah, let's take them along for the ride.
Yeah, definitely. But we'll get into all the other additions to the game in a minute.
Hmm.
But like one thing I did like about the beginning and the overall kind of story that we got at the beginning, like about
Hmm.
was about the sleeper being in the middle of a reboot,
Hmm.
and he gets interrupted by this reboot because of Lane coming in and finding them. And the whole idea of the reboot was to take the sleeper's need for stabilizer, which in the first game sleeper needed it to
Mm-hmm.
survive. You know, if you didn't keep the stabilizer levels up to a good standard, then he was going to stuff it. They were going to suffer, and it was going to impact your gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And I quite like this. I quite like this little addition. You know, taking the stabilizer away, making it a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more different again from the original game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to give you or kind of like to make you be able to concentrate on other mechanics of the game and not having to worry about the stabilizer anymore.
Yeah, yeah, I really enjoyed that because that was probably my biggest frustration in the first game,
Yeah.
was always having to keep up with that stabilizer. And I and I get it, in the first game they used that mostly to create like the stress that has been divided a bit more in this game. Like in the first game, you had to get that, or something bad would happen, and of course that gets you excited. But now you have, like, you've got supplies to keep check of, you've got fuel to keep check of, you've got someone that's chasing you to keep check of, uh, and then there's all of the story beats that get introduced as well, that add extra stress. And yeah, I'm glad they took that away.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't miss it at all,
No,
at all. And
same.
I was very happy that they went. But I liked the way in which they implemented it into the narrative. I thought it was a really cool way of doing it. And
Hmm.
and Sleeper kind of loses his memories of before the reboot. You know, it
Hmm.
affected him in that way as well. And so throughout the game, you're kind of struggling with that kind of side of it too, and how much you want to remember, how you want to respond to. Sorry, I'm terrible at names. You'll get to know this, but like his shipmate, yes,
Seraphim.
Seraphim. That's it. Sorry. Um, and how you get to choose how to respond to him and how you want to play that and stuff. You know, not knowing a
Hmm.
lot about him. So
Hmm.
yeah, really, yeah, just another really cool story. It just
Absolutely.
threw me straight in. It was brilliant. But we'll talk a little bit more about the story a bit later. Let's get into some of these new additions that they put into Citizen Sleeper 2. We've
Yeah.
talked a little bit about the contracts. I don't think there's anything more we want to say about the contracts.
I liked that there was such a big difference between them. Like, no two contracts were the same, and I like that. That all of them were put in there with intent. I would have enjoyed it if there were even more in there, maybe like more randomized events where you just go to, like, salvage some scrap or whatever. But still, it was. I like that there was this variety on show.
Yeah. And, as we're on the contracts, I mean, one of the mechanics that they kind of threw at you near the beginning was this push mechanic, which you
Yeah.
kind of used in the contracts. And I'm still not quite sure or what they were there for, because and I think this was one of the other areas of the game that I was unsure about. It was an area of the game that I didn't ever really use that much, because
Hmm.
I don't know if I understood the benefits to it,
Hmm.
because it seemed that every time I used it, it just made it worse for me.
Oh no.
Uh, and I just think I was just overly confused by that mechanic, and I don't know if I missed something or whether it just wasn't explained to me as well as it could have been. And I don't know. What was your experience with the push?
I I don't think you were missing anything. I think it was just introduced to really be a bit of a gamble,
Mm,
where if you had really terrible dice, that you could gamble on getting some better rolls. Um, but to be honest, I completely forgot that mechanic was there, because it's like it's tucked away all at the top of the screen, and I just didn't pay attention to that. Like, the map button was right beneath it. I That was the only thing I had eyes for, and I managed to complete my entire gameplay, my entire playthrough, without using that mechanic. So I think it might be a nice touch for people who want to maybe force things a little, because you're always on the clock when you're on a contract, because you always have your limit of 5 supplies. So you have 5 cycles before you start taking stress.
That is
Um,
one question I wanted to ask you, because I
mhm,
never, although with the fuel, I managed to upgrade it, and in the end, I was able to carry 15 lots of fuel. But like with the
mhm.
supplies, I never upgraded it. It was always 5 supplies.
Oh, same for me.
Oh, okay. I didn't know whether
Yeah.
yet again I'd not done something, or I'd gone in a different direction, and I missed like an upgrade to the supplies.
If you missed it, then I missed it too.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Guys, because I always kind of worried that, because I thought like I could really do with a few more supplies in some of the contracts. It would have been really nice,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely. Without giving anything about the ending away just yet, but the final mission, that's where I really needed more supplies.
Yeah.
Good lord.
And there was an element, I was like on my last supply, and like the character, I can't remember which character it was. Oh, here, have some more supplies. I was like, yes, thank you.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Ankita.
thank the Lord. And even then, like it was a like edge of your seat. Am I gonna have enough
Yeah.
supplies, or am I going to be able to survive starving enough to get through this contract? But
Yeah.
yeah, okay, cool. And obviously, we mentioned a little bit about recruiting the crew as well, which was another cool element. I enjoyed that element to it, because it was up to you. Once again, that's what Citizen Sleeper and 2 is all about. It's your decisions on who you want, who you don't want, what you want to do, how you want to react to people. And this is the same for the crew. You could either take them on when they asked, or you could say no and not have them. You
Hmm.
know, I always said yes, because
Okay.
I kind of wanted as much selection as I could possibly have,
Yeah.
and I quite enjoyed having all the different kind of characters on there. It was on the rig. I thought it made for a little bit more interesting, I think. But
Absolutely.
from your reaction, it sounds like you didn't take everybody.
There was one guy who just did not seem all that trustworthy,
I know who
and
you're talking about. It's
probably
yeah, the you again, bad at names. Sorry, but I
I can't remember his name either.
no.
But I went on his contract, and it was just all so shady, and I was like, I've given trust to a lot of people, but in the end, I'm still a sleeper with a barely functioning memory, and I have to draw a line somewhere. So that was the line I drew, but it was the only one because I mentioned this in the written review as well. I'm a big fan. Like in improv comedy, you have this basic idea of yes and, where if someone introduces a story beat, you go with it and you build on it. And I think Citizen Sleeper and its sequel both are very yes and games, where you're like these people are asking you to trust them. They can't really give you anything in return yet, but it might be worth trusting them. And it's so worth giving them that trust. I mean, sometimes, yeah, it blows up in your face, but other times you form these connections because you've given that trust to someone who proved worthy of your trust. And yeah, I really like that it played into the whole selecting your crew thing.
Yeah. I mean, that particular character you're talking about, he's the one you met in the bar, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was the same as you. I went on the contract. It was all a bit weird and shady,
Hmm.
but I was like, I want to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. I want to
Okay.
see where his storyline would go if I did take him on. You know,
Yeah.
would he try and get one over on me? Would he backstab me, or
Hmm.
would he change? Would being with me in the sleeper, would he, would his character change enough, or is there other stuff going on?
Hmm.
Which, and this all speaks to the power of the writing, because these are all the kind of questions going through my head. Like, if I took him on and he stayed with me and whatever else, would I see the real person, or is he putting a facade up, or is
Hmm.
this, person who he is from the start?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as the game went on, and I did use him in a few contracts,
Hmm.
um, yeah, he was always a bit bashful. He was always a bit up in your face and everything else. But in the end, he kind of showed his true colors, and those true colors were a good true color in the end,
Okay.
And in the end, I was just really, he was actually one of the characters that I attached to more than some of the others.
Okay.
Um, so I really appreciated, and I really was really pleased that I did actually give that character the benefit of the doubt.
Hmm. Glad to hear it.
Yeah, as well as like with some of the other characters, the more nicer characters. Like I warmed to them, but I think there was a few that I wasn't overly bothered by, whereas
Okay.
some of the others like Bliss and is it
Yeah.
Juhi? I can't remember.
Judy, I think.
Yeah. I really grew attached to her as well.
Hmm.
And the game kind of gives you that problem to solve near the beginning of like you're on a contract with her and like you're trying to get, this is at the beginning of the game actually at Hexport, I think, where you're going
Hmm.
to get this data core
Hmm.
because you're the whole point of this part is that you have a choice. You either get 400 credits to get the fuel pipes so you can escape, or you go on this contract and you try and get this data core, so you can trade the data core with this trader for the fuel pipes. And this Judy comes along with you, and it all kind of the game makes you think that she's working for the trader, but
Hmm.
she's not, and that all comes out in the contract. It's like, I actually want this data core because I want all the information, because I want to preserve it. I want to preserve and find out what actually happened in these wars and
Hmm.
everything that happened in the system. And then you're left with this choice. Do you take the data core for yourself so you can get the fuel pipe so you can escape? Or do you let her have the data core so she can extract the data so she can carry on with her mission?
Hmm.
And it's those kind of choices where you're like, man, I really don't know which one to go for.
Hmm.
In the end, I chose to let her have the data core, and it all kind of worked out in the end because we got back to Hexport. And she was like, "Well, I'll just help you steal the fuel pipes if you want." And I was like, "Okay, then let's do that then." And I managed to succeed in that.
Hmm.
And yeah, again, you still got the element of failure in that part of the game. You could decide to do that and then completely screw it up, which I think I did in my first run, which kind of, I think, put me on the path to failure. But
Okay.
thankfully, in my second run, I managed to succeed, get the fuel pipes and get out there.
Hmm.
But, it's those kind of situations, I guess, that really helped me bond with some of the characters over others. And with
Hmm.
Judy herself, I think that particular storyline did that for me.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Um, I made the same choice back in Hexport, and then when you realize what happens to Hexport, I was like,
Yeah.
did we do that?
I thought the same thing, yeah. Because I thought, obviously, when I mucked it up the first time, I thought, did me mucking it up make Hexport blow up?
Uh-huh.
And so on my second run, and I succeeded, I thought, I'd be interested to see if Hexport blows up or not. And it still blew up.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
you know, and it feeds into the narrative into to the end of the game. So obviously, it's something
it
that's meant to
does.
happen. So,
Yeah.
okay. The next one, obviously, still to do with a little bit with the contract, obviously, is the fuel and supplies. And I don't think there's much to say about it really, actually, but I think we've already said what we needed to say about it. Like supplies wise, I was hoping for more upgrades, so I had a few
Hmm.
more. Even if I had like 3 or 4 more, but then I don't know whether if I did, that would have took a lot of the, you know, anxiety out of those contracts, or
Absolutely.
those kind of edge of your seat moments of like, am I actually going to do this or not?
Hmm.
So
It would also have caused me personally a lot less frustration uh, with like I spent so many cycles just trying to get good rolls so I could buy more fuel,
yeah,
buy more supplies,
hmm
and especially later on in the game when some of my dice were broken and others were glitch dice, I was basically stuck for like weeks,
Yeah.
just trying to work shifts, earn enough chits, to get enough fuel to go somewhere where the supplies were cheaper, so I
Yeah.
can afford those.
Hmm.
It got a little bit frustrating at times. That.
Mm. I can, yeah, I get that completely. Yeah. I mean, like I say, I would have been happier to have had more,
Hmm.
definitely. And with the fuel as well, sometimes, especially when you open more of the belt and like you want to go from one place to another. I mean, sometimes that can cost you like 10 units of fuel,
Hmm.
and that's quite a lot of fuel.
Hmm.
So especially when when you're running low on credits and you just want that fuel, man.
Yeah.
But so any time a contract came up or some kind of task came up with it, like, do you know what? We're going to reward you with like 300 credits. I was like, hell yes, let's get into that because I could really do with the money.
Hmm.
Okay, I don't think there's much. Let's look at the list. Sleeper's Degeneration, I guess, was something that was quite new to the game,
Hmm.
where because of the reboot, the sleeper systems were kind of not working very well. They were struggling with the memory and other things. And like throughout the game, like you got that sense that the sleeper was kind of degenerating,
Hmm.
as you went along.
Hmm.
And that kind of led into that last section of the game where dice were like permanently glitching
Hmm.
to the fact that um, you couldn't really use them, because of how the sleeper was degenerating.
Hmm.
And I kind of really liked that. I thought that was um, a really cool plot line to take through the whole game.
Absolutely. For maybe we should explain what the glitch dice
Yeah,
do
I was just thinking the
first.
same thing when I was saying that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and so
you do that too.
basically, usually when you have your dice rolls, like a 6 will give you 100% positive result, a 5 will give you, I think, 50% positive, 50% neutral, and it goes down like that towards negative results. But glitch dice don't have a number on them. You just have 20% chance that you'll have a positive outcome and 80% chance that it's a negative outcome. So the odds are not in your favor.
No, not at all.
But
Did you actually get any positive results from a glitch dice?
I did. I
Ah,
did.
nice,
Yeah.
great
I
feeling.
ne- I needed to because especially at in that final mission, I was down to only 3 dice and all of them were glitch dice. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
But that was a buzz though. Like you put that glitch dice in and you press that button and you start seeing that bar moving and you're like, is it? Is it? Please, please, please.
yeah.
Ah! You know?
Yeah, absolutely. It made the dice mechanic a bit more. What do you call it? Um, it made it a bit more active. Like usually the dice are already rolled when you start your cycle, but now you had something more active going on, and you were hoping in real time to get a good result.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And like I liked how you had just glitch dice, which could be
Hmm.
repairable by Bliss. I'm interested. Like you've got a choice with Bliss as well on whether to take him or not,
Hmm.
or onto the ship.
Hmm.
So I'd be quite interested. Does that make it harder for you during the game? Because if you don't have Bliss, you can't fix your glitch dice. I'd be
Ooh,
I'd be
that.
interested to know how that plot line would progress if you decided not
Hmm.
to take Bliss. That'd be quite intriguing. But I obviously took Bliss. I was like, yeah, you'll come in, no worries, straight away, no thought. And you can have your glitch dice repaired by Bliss by using scrap junk or
Hmm.
um, some kind of other posher junk, which won't which won't give you as much glitchiness. Because
Hmm.
every time, yeah, again, you fix a dice, then there's a certain amount of glitch that will happen for a couple of cycles before they go away. Or
Yeah.
if you die, if you let your sleeper starve, and then your stress levels, you've also got a bar for your stress levels. If they
Hmm.
get up to the top, then your sleeper will die. I mean, you will start again, but then you will have a permanent glitch dice. They won't
Mm-hmm.
ever go away. So instead of having 6, you only have 5. And like
Mm-hmm.
every time your sleeper dies, it will just go down by a dice.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, in my first run, I was swearing at these glitch dice. I was like, man, I hate them. I hate them. Why are they here? Please just go away. But I kind of got them the second time around in that
Mm-hmm.
second run, and it was a lot more easier to manage. Definitely. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that feeds into Sleeper's generation. More glitch
Mm-hmm.
dice, more permanent glitch,
Mm-hmm.
especially at the end, which was frustrating as well because obviously you're low on supplies, you're starting to run out of dice. If you didn't get a lucky roll, you're like, oh man, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And everything else. I really do not want to screw up the end of this,
Yeah.
and that just, yeah, again, it all just fed into that adrenaline. Just gave me so much adrenaline, It's like, oh man, just please give me a good roll.
Absolutely. It also made sense story wise in that before you did the reboot, um, Lane was giving you his own stabilizer, but apparently he had tampered with it just to make something happen inside of your sleeper.
Yeah,
Because
because there was
during the
something inside
game,
he wanted, wasn't there?
yeah,
That's why he wanted that particular sleeper, because there was something inside of him, which I think was like the overseer, isn't it? Because you.
no, the overseer is something that enters the sleeper
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
later in
yeah,
the
yeah,
game.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, but it's because of the stabilizer that Lane fed you that something is like kind of growing inside of you,
Mm,
and it allows Lane to take control over
that's
your
right. Yeah,
body basically.
yeah,
And in that way, the degrading body of the sleeper made sense because the later in the game, the easier it became for Lane to take control of you
yeah.
because your resistance was just getting worn down more and
Mm.
more.
Yeah, I remember those particular moments, like where the sleeper's saying, like, I can see what I'm doing, but I've got no control of myself. And like he's saying,
Mhm.
he had his hands around Seraphine and around his neck and everything, like, yeah, that was some moments of like, wow, because it's like it really gave you that sense of being overtaken and not being able to do anything about it. And like,
Mhm.
you could feel that in yourself and like, how would that feel? And um how would I feel if that happened to me, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, uh, uh, and we might as well carry on with the story while we're here. I think we've
Yeah.
exhausted the new additions to Citizen Sleeper. So, like, how did you feel the story in Citizen Sleeper 2 was over the first game?
I think it somehow managed to remain as intimate as the first game was while working on a much grander scale. Um, because every space station that you visit, there's a reason to be there. There are people to meet there, and usually you have a history with, or someone in your crew has a history with one of those people there. Um, I think that worked really well. Even though you at times you're just going from space station to space station, it never felt like you were just being pushed around just for the sake of it. It always made sense why you had to move over there, why you had to move over there, especially with Lane obviously chasing you as well. But there were always reasons to go everywhere. That, like, I have played games where you're just running all over the place, carrying this item to this person and then this item to this person. And sometimes it feels like they're just padding out the game just to make it last longer. I didn't have that feeling here. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, there's no. I mean, there was urgency in some of it, but a lot of it there was no urgency either. Like
Mm
you got to a certain point in some storylines, and you're like, oh well, we need to meet up here, and then we can carry it on.
hmm. Mm hmm.
But there was no urgency. You didn't have to do that straight away. You could go
Mm hmm.
somewhere else and do another task, like
Yeah.
or another storyline if you wanted to, or you could go there, you could go here, or you could go straight there if you wanted to, if you had enough fuel.
Mm hmm.
So I did like that non-urgency in that
Yeah.
respect to the story, definitely.
Mm hmm.
But Matt, it's hard. I don't think it's any better than the original Citizen Sleeper. I think they can stand on their own 2 feet side by side. I think they're just as
Hmm.
good as each other, I think. And there's
Yeah.
always that
Yeah.
apprehension as well coming into a sequel. Like, can Gareth actually do this again? Can he produce these emotions from me again
Hmm.
from another, another story? Was Citizen Sleeper a one-off?
Hmm.
And, I was so relieved that that wasn't the case. He still managed, they still managed to produce a story that was still quite really original,
Hmm.
which is really hard to do in the science fiction world these days. A
Yeah.
lot has been told, but he still managed to do that,
Hmm.
which I was so appreciative of.
Hmm.
And the characterization, where we've mentioned it before, was so on point that, when it fed into the story itself, it just made everything stronger. Um, I loved about the reboot stuff. I loved about Lane chasing you, and that affected the gameplay a little bit.
Hmm.
I loved that, there was parts of the story where we were trying to find out what happened at Hexport, and you had that choice, of like in anything in the game, you
Hmm.
had that choice whether you wanted to go in that direction, if you wanted to experience what happened or go down that storyline,
Hmm.
Um, I really loved Olivia Vera.
Yeah. Oliveira.
Yeah. I really loved that whole section of the story. I
Hmm.
loved, like, it was all that was all made from, like, the ship, wasn't it, from the first game? Is that right?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
the
so. Yeah.
Pilgrim Hatch or whatever. And that was really cool. I thought, oh, he's managed to, like, bring in Citizen Sleeper into this game. I know obviously you get some returning characters, but
Hmm.
he's managed to bring the actual shit. And then it just opened up a load more questions. What actually happened to it then, and that kind of, like, gets touched upon in the Helion Dispatches, I guess, a little bit, doesn't it? But,
Yeah.
like, you're still like, but what happened? Did they all die? Did they
Hmm.
all survive? Are they somewhere else? And that kind of hoped for Citizen Sleeper 3, like we go back to the original Sleeper and we
Hmm.
kind of find out what happened. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. Um, yeah. But yeah, and yeah, the whole story just kind of bled into each other, and it just never felt unnatural. It
Hmm.
felt, it just felt nothing was shoehorned in. Like
Yeah. Exactly.
it all just felt really, just smooth, beautiful.
Yeah, this world is such a living, breathing place, and it feels like Gareth just took element like they have an idea of how this entire universe works and how everything affects everything else, because somewhere in this universe there's a war going on, and in this game you're not going to see anything like any action scenes or anything or like big warships
No,
invading.
because you
But
have got Conway, haven't you? And you've got Senate
yeah,
Sat, and
yeah.
you've got other factions that are all kind of fighting over different parts of the system, different
Hmm.
things, and everything else, and just makes it even
Yeah,
more fascinating, doesn't it?
absolutely. And that's what I meant with like Gareth has like this immense knowledge when it comes to like how things reverberate, how one small action can lead to like giant consequences in a totally different place, and somehow they've figured it all out within this universe, and that's insane to me.
Yeah,
Like,
it's really hard to, like, I'd say, I don't know, like, about the plot line, about the writing and the stories. It's really hard to articulate it
hmm.
on how I feel, and I think how you feel about it all. There's just something there that I've never felt before from a science fiction writing, or from a film or from another game in this kind of genre.
Hmm.
Like, it's so unique, and like you
Hmm.
said, Gareth just got this special way of, like, doing what he does. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's just so hard to know what it is, but
Hmm.
it's there, and just makes these games just extra special.
It's gonna sound really cliche what about to say, but there's this real heart to the game
There
and
is
to
a real
this
heart. Yeah.
universe. There's hope to be found within a world that doesn't seem all that full of hope. And that's what I really like about this universe and both games set within it.
Mm. And like when we get to the end of Citizen Sleeper 2, like that whole ending section, it really just brings everything that you've experienced throughout the game all onto you at the end, kind of all at once. And like you start getting the storyline of like you meet this guy on Dark Side, and he was it Dark Side, I think, or no, somewhere else, and he kind of wanted to try the reboot again, but it
Hmm.
does end up on Dark Side and Bliss doing it.
Hmm.
And along the way you meet a different sleeper. You meet Clint,
Yeah.
um, uh, and you're like, there's a whole thing there as like how do you want to react to this other sleeper? Do you want to be friendly? Do you want to be off guard to him? Like it comes out that you've kind of met the sleeper before. You've got this connection, but you just can't remember. But you get to this end section of the game, like where Clint's like, I want to be rebooted as well. I don't want to be,
Hmm.
um, I don't want to have the stabilizer anymore either.
Hmm.
And it's like you get this scene, or you get this moment in the game, like where these two sleepers are laying on their beds, ready for this reboot. And like, man, I kind of lost it a little bit there. I got a little bit teary. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Such is the strength of everything that you'd experienced throughout the game.
Hmm.
Yeah, again, such is the strength of the writing, and like because the visuals are so, I don't want to say simple, but they don't give you much.
Yeah.
Obviously the visuals don't go into the room. You don't see the sleepers.
Hmm.
You imagining it. You're starting to picture it in your own head as you're reading the words, and yeah, it was a really powerful moment for me.
Yeah. Same. Did you make them hold hands?
Yeah,
Yeah. Same. It
I
felt fitting.
I was kind of a bit of off guard to Clint at the beginning when we first met, but
Hmm.
as time wore on, I was like, I want to be a bit warmer towards him
Hmm.
or them.
But I get it because when you meet him, he's a bit more standoffish as well, and he explains his reasoning behind it. Although the exact reason evades me now for a second. But he after a while he comes up to you and he's like, "I'm sorry, I've been a bit standoffish and I didn't mean to. I just didn't know how to trust." I think it was a case of trust. And then he starts warming up to you, and it makes you want to warm up to him as well.
Mm. And and so just to get this beautiful moment at the end, yeah, it's a video game in memory or moment that I don't think you get those every now and again, not very often, but
Hmm.
yeah, definitely got one of those video gaming moments that I don't think I'll ever kind of forget.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was really, really cool. But did you like how Citizen Sleeper 2 ended? Like with the way Lane was handled and the
I
other
actually
factions
did.
going on there.
I actually did. It got a little annoying just because of the dice situation, um, but I loved it. How everything came together. How all of the choices that you made throughout the game came crashing down all at once. Like it influenced who was there to help you, who wasn't, um, and then to have it like first to see the end of Lane, loved it,
Yeah, definitely.
um, and then to see like how that was one event, but the
Yeah,
worlds keep turning,
yeah,
and there's still a lot of things to come, and I didn't take the that's my one regret I have from this playthrough is I didn't take the time to then after that final clash to then round off everyone's stories because I felt story wise I owed it to the sleepers to go do the reboot because they were faltering. And I just didn't feel like we could fly around the Starward belt one more time.
Oh, I
But
did.
you did?
Yeah. I
Oh,
was like, I'm
nice.
stretching this out as much as I can. And I went and tried to complete everything before I went and did the reboot. Because
Okay.
I knew the reboot was going to kick in the end game.
Hmm.
And I was like, I want to, get like with the first game and multiple endings. And I want
Yeah.
to see as much resolution to all these different storylines as I possibly can.
Hmm.
And I did it. There were you started going through them, like you would get, screens pop up and like talking about the sleepers through, degeneration and how
Hmm.
much worse it was getting. But I pushed on and I pushed through, and yeah, I managed to do what I wanted to do before getting to the reboot. So, well, whether
That
that I was
must.
lucky, whether that's built in, to make sure that you can, and it's just giving you
Hmm.
that little bit more to it, just to
Hmm.
try and I don't know. But yeah, no, I decided, yeah, I'm just going to try and do as much as I can before that reboot, and I did manage to. So
Cool. That must be really satisfying.
yes, it was. Okay, well, I think we're near the end. Just an overall thoughts on Citizen Sleeper 2, and then we can get out of here. Um, yeah. Well, what was your overall thoughts, Tofr, of Citizen Sleeper 2?
I just can't believe that it was this good. I I had high hopes because the first game was so good, but I was like, is this lightning in a bottle? Can it be captured twice? But apparently, I have way too little faith in what Gareth can do,
Yeah.
because it's like you said earlier on. This game is just as good as the first one. It's not better because it doesn't need to be better. It's different, and yet it still feels similar. And how it managed to do that, I'm really yeah, wowed by.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I walked away with the same kind of impression as I did with Citizen Sleeper. When Citizen Sleeper 2 ended, I just kind of sat there for a few minutes and I was like, so wow,
Yeah.
that was something, and I did exactly the same thing after Citizen Sleeper 2. I kind of that all happened. I kind of wiped away my little tear and I kind of just sat there for a few minutes and I was like,
Hmm.
wow, you know,
Hmm.
just wow. Um, it it was another special game. It was another game I couldn't put down. When I was away from the game, I wanted to get back to it. I wanted to do more. I wanted to experience this more. It was that kind of thing. And
Hmm.
like you said, like we said, for that to happen again, we've all been disappointed with sequels to games that we really enjoyed and liked and loved. So there is that apprehension. There is a natural thing, definitely.
Hmm.
But man, yeah, he's just done it again,
Hmm.
and it's so special. It's just a just what it can be achieved is just from what looks like a simple game. It is unimagined. It's just crazy. Um,
Yeah.
so basically, what I'm saying, my overall thought of Citizen Sleeper 2 is that it's
Mhm.
incredible. It's great. It's literally game of the year material already,
Oh yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
it's going to be hard pushed for anybody else to top it. Definitely.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's my first 5-star review of the year. I
I'd be
think
disappointed if it was anything less.
I couldn't make it. I would give it more if I could, because it's that good. This is
Yeah.
one that, yeah, if they're gonna release another book or whatever, I'm all in.
Man, just throw me novels. Tell me some
Yeah,
prequel stuff. Give me some more context to the wars and what happened
yeah.
and all these different factions or whatever and stuff like that. And give
Hmm.
me stuff of what happened after Citizen Sleeper 2 because I really want to know if that reboot worked and they were all good because you don't find out.
Yeah, it's basically the ending of Inception all over again.
God, yeah. Okay, well, I think that concludes our conversation. We didn't even
Great.
mention the music.
Oh, Amos Roddy's soundtrack is just it. At times I was wondering, like, is this new music or is this music from the first game? But I actually like that because together with the graphics, it meant like it was this continuation. It wasn't something completely new because it didn't need to be something completely new. And it's just it set the mood perfectly once again. Like you mentioned, we both got review keys for this game. I'm going to buy the special edition
Oh,
when
the
it comes
deluxe
out.
version. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I want that soundtrack.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh, I'm definitely buying it on Bandcamp, definitely.
Oh,
Is it?
same, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was another corker by us.
Hmm.
Um, just yeah, again, just to set you into that world and just gave that game the atmosphere that it has.
Hmm.
Kind of puts you on some kind of like, I don't know, kind of made me feel chill a lot of the time, even through the stressy bits. Which
Yeah.
probably just made me feel even more conflicted with what was going on with the game in some ways. But yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, again, it was yeah, another special ingredient to the game. And yeah, again, Amos just kind of knocked it out of the park with
Absolutely.
that. And that is definitely one of the things I'm most excited for when the game releases, is just having the opportunity to be able to buy the soundtrack. So
Hmm.
to be kind of living off the 4 tracks that they've released on streaming over the last few weeks. And
Hmm.
yeah, I need the whole caboodle. So yeah,
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
Same. Same.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks so much, Topher, for joining me for this conversation on Citizen Sleeper 2.
Very
Um,
happy to be here.
yeah, man. I mean, it's the first, ladies and gentlemen, it's the first time that me and Topher have actually spoken in real life together.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really cool. I think it was really cool. But yeah, thanks so much for joining me, Topher. It was really cool of you. And a massive thank you to you listening, watching, for joining us. And I hope you've enjoyed our discussion on Citizen Sleeper 2. And yeah, just really appreciate you spending some time with us.
Hmm.
If you want to check out Topher's written review of Citizen Sleeper 2, then, like I said at the beginning, that is available now on our website. And you can find a link to the actual review in the video description, as well as a link to somanygames.co.uk. So you can check out all our other amazing reviews that we've got on there from all our other amazing writers.
Hmm.
But all that's left to do is for you, Topher, to let people know where they can find you.
They can most easily find me through my link tree, which is Play Nice Kids in one word. You can also, when you follow that link, you'll be able to go to my YouTube channel where you can see the first 65 minutes of gameplay for Citizen Sleeper 2. You can also find me on the Playlog podcast with CG Danny B, which is a weekly indie game podcast.
It's a very
And
good podcast as well. Definitely
oh,
worth your
thank
time.
you. That's really kind. And yeah, check out so many games.
Beautiful. Cheers, dude. That said, all that's left for me to say is that my name has been Jason. You can find me running the So Many Games socials. Until next time, take care out there and happy gaming. Goodbye.